Hi guys, I am John Ray Garcia and we are going to report to you the lesson 2 entitled The Sexual Self. So first, what is sexual self? Sexual self concept defined as an individual's evaluation of his or her own sexual feelings and actions. It proposed as an important predictor of contraceptive behavior among teenagers, and a scale measuring concept is described. The lesson objectives for these topics is at the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the concept of sexual self, recognize your own sexual self in behavior, and discuss ways on how to protect one's sexual self. Introduction. Research says that the sex chromosomes of human define the sex and their secondary characteristics. From childhood, we are controlled by our genetic makeup. It influences the way we treat ourselves and others. Our society or the environment we live in also shapes ourselves. Some people's innate sexuality has been changed due to external factors. This lesson helps us understand our physical and sexual selves. Abstraction, sex and gender. Sex refers to the physical or psychological differences between males and females, including both the primary sex characteristics, the reproductive system, and the secondary characteristics such as height and muscularity. Sex is therefore by the reproductive organs, including the cellular components, the chromosomes, and the hormones. There are three sex variations according to WAAC or Western Australian AIDS Council of 2020. Male is a person with penis or the male reproductive organ with XY chromosome in his cells. So when we say X and Y chromosomes, so the X and Y chromosomes, also known as the sex chromosome, determine the biological sex of an individual. Females inherit an X chromosomes from the father for a XX genotype, while males inherit a Y chromosomes from the father for a XY genotype. Mothers only passed on X chromosomes, and the body is capable of producing high levels of testosterone. So what is testosterone? Testosterone is the male sex hormone that is made in the testicles. Testosterone hormone levels are important to normal male sexual development and function. During puberty, in the teen years, testosterone helps boys develop male features like body and facial hair, deeper voice, and muscle strength. So, female is a person with vagina of the female reproductive organ with XX chromosomes and is capable of releasing high levels of estrogen. So what is estrogen? What is the role of estrogen? Are a group of hormones that play an important role in the normal sexual and reproductive development in women. There are also sex hormones. The woman's ovaries makes most estrogen hormones, although the adrenal glands and fat cells also make small amount of the hormones. Last, the intersex is a person born with the sexual anatomy or chromosomes that do not fit the traditional definition of male or female. The person has the combination of reproductive sex organ, including internal sex organs, chromosomes, and hormones. So, what is an intersex person? Intersex is a group of conditions in which there is a discrepancy between the external genitals and the internal genitals, the testes and ovaries. The older term for this condition is hermaphroditism. So what does intersex look like? A clitoris that's larger than expected, a penis that's smaller than expected, no vaginal opening, a penis without a urethra opening at the tip, the opening might instead be on the other side. Labia that are closed or otherwise resemble a scrotum that is empty and resembles labia. So that is intersex look like. According to Diamond, 2002, gender refers to social or cultural roles played by male or female in the society. Gender identity is the extent to which one identifies as being either masculine or feminine, or how someone feels on the inside. Meanwhile, gender expression describes how someone prefers to express his or her gender to the world. For instance, we have been accustomed to associating color pink to girls and blue for boys. From childhood, we give dolls for baby girls, while trucks and plastic guns for baby boys. Men are sporty, while women encouraged to use makeup, do hairstyle, and paint their nails. So, what is meant by gender expression is how a person publicly expresses or presents their gender. This can include behavior and the outward appearance such as dress, hair, makeup, body language, and voice. A person's chosen name and pronouns are also ways of expressing gender. And nowadays, many women can do men's work, and women's work can also be done by men. So there is an exchange rule in nowadays exchange rule because of their behavior and appearance. There are three gender variation according to WAAC 2020. The first is cisgender, who is person identifying himself or herself with the sex assigned to them at birth. What does the phrase cisgender mean? It is a term that means whatever gender you are now is the same as what was presumed for you at birth. This simply means that when a parent or a doctor called you a boy or a girl when you were born, they got it right. So the second is transgender, whose gender identity does not match the sex that they were assigned at birth. Transgender is an umbrella term for persons whose gender identity, gender expression, or behavior does not conform to the typically associated with the sex to which they were assigned at birth. The last type is gender fluid. Gender fluid referring to a person whose gender identity is not fixed and or shifts depending on the situation. These people do not feel the need to act according to the sex they were assigned at birth and the associated traditional social roles. Gender fluid refers to change over time in person's gender expression or gender identity or both. The change might be in expression but not identity or in identity but not expression, or both expression and identity might change together.
Sexuality pertains to the part of a person expressed through sexual activities and relationships. It is often represented through one's feelings, sexual identity, and behaviors. The term sexuality refers to the full expression of your gender or your sexual orientation as a human. Our sexuality starts when we are born and ends when we die. Every human creature is sexual. Your sexual feelings, thoughts, attraction, and behavior towards other people are all part of your sexuality. Other people can inspire your interest in a physical, sexual, or emotional way, and all of these things are aspects of your sexuality. Your sexual orientation is a unique and deeply personal aspect of who you are. Sexual identity is how a person chooses to describe or label his or her sexuality. There are many labels as a person can choose. Among these are heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, asexual, pansexual, and last is the questioning among others. So let's start with the heterosexual. Heterosexual is a person who is attracted to the people of the opposite sex. People who are heterosexual are romantically and physically attracted to members of the opposite sex. Heterosexual males are attracted to females, and heterosexual females are attracted to males. Heterosexuals are sometimes called straight. Second, homosexual. Homosexual is who is a person attracted to the people of the same sex. People who are homosexual could refer to themselves as gay, lesbian, LGBTQ, queer, or a number of other terms. Third, bisexual. Bisexual is a person who is attracted to both genders, male and female. Those who identify as bisexual feel a sexual and or romantic attraction to the people of a different gender as well as their own. Next is asexual. Asexual people may identify as cisgender, non-binary, transgender, or any other gender. It is common for asexual people to have romantic, but not sexual, attraction to others. They may identify as hetero, homo, bi, or pan-romantic. Others are aromantic, that is, they feel no romantic attraction to other people. Next, pansexual. A pansexual person may be attracted to men, women, non-binary people, and people of any other gender identity. Last is the Questioning. Questioning refers to some people who may be unsure about their sexuality and or are exploring it. All that means is that you're approaching your gender and sexuality with intention, after having thought about other people's experience and thought about seriously about what is it is that you want for yourself. Thank you.
So, queer theory is a perspective that questions the manner in which we have been taught to think about sexual orientation. The proponents of the theory disagree with the idea of labeling, and they embrace the term queer to describe their group. Queer means group. So, what is queer? So, queer is a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people may all identify with the word queer. So, that is the meaning of queer. So, they do not adhere to the idea of dominant gender schema and the classification of sexual orientations into homosexual and heterosexual. So, they do not adhere to the idea of dominant gender schema and the classification of sexual orientations into homosexual and heterosexual. So, what are the difference between the two? So, heterosexual is a person who is sexually or romantically attracted to the people of the opposite sex, while homosexual is a person who is sexually attracted to members of the same sex. So there are the difference between the two. So they emphasize the need for a more flexible and fluid conceptualizations of sexuality, one that will permit freedom, negotiation, and change. The last is queer theorist Eve Kosofsky Sedgwick pointed out dozens of the other ways of which people's sexualities were different. Little and McGivern 2022. According to Sedgwick, even identical genital acts mean very different things to different people. Moreover, some people, whether homosexual, heterosexual, or bisexual, experience their sexuality as deeply embedded in a mixed matrix of gender meanings and gender differentials, while others of each sexuality may not be expressing them in the same manner. People who belong to the queer group desire for more flexible the way of expressing their sexuality. They want more freedom, yet more inclusive environment where they could thrive in. So that's the end of our lesson, and thank you for listening to our topics. That's all.